collusion grievance ruling. And I still have memories of people suggesting it might not be authentic, it might not be complete, and somebody might be reporting on that. And that never happened. But that was
I'm waiting for it. Yeah,
that was part of the oh shit reaction by people who had their interests undermined by the fact that you were able to get that document and put it out there. But I mentioned this at PFT. I think I mentioned it yesterday here at PFT PM. JC Tretter talked about it today on Dan Patrick's show. He mentioned it in his interview with Jonathan Jones of CBS. And I'm astounded by this claim that as the chief strategy officer of the NFL Players Association, who was one of the key witnesses in the collusion grievance hearing, for him to not know anything other than we lost until you unearthed the ruling. First of all, I don't believe him. But second of all, if you do believe him, and he's the chief strategy officer, and if you listen to him on Dan Patrick Day, and anybody that hasn't seen it, go check it out. I didn't have anything to do with that. Dude, you're the chief strategy officer. Like, this is the most important strategy beyond CBA negotiations that the union is ever going to have on its plate. What do we do with this thing? We kind of have the tiger by the tail here. We got one arm on the tail, and yeah, we lost the grievance, and JC Tretter pointed that out. Well, we did lose the grievance. Yeah, but you secured a partial win, and you harvested evidence that Dan talked about. The Dino text messages. Like, there's evidence there of actual collusion, even if the arbitrator got that part wrong. But the arbitrator didn't get the part wrong about the league urging the teams to collude. How does the chief strategy officer not know about that? And Pablo, this is my point. If he's telling the truth, how did he not pack up and walk out the door when he found out that they had not involved him in the most important strategy that the NFLPA would be doing until the next CBA is up?
Yeah, needless to say, both of us, let this be an invitation to JC Tretter if he so desires, right? To respond to our messages. Please sit for an interview with both of us because we got questions, and we'll even preview the questions in this conversation. Because one of the questions I have, I mean, look, Mike, when you are, let's say, an executive who has more experience with the union than the guy who had been installed as the executive director of the union under your supervision of the process, which was deliberately engineered to be secretive and involving, again, yes, confidentiality agreements, actual signed documents, in the way that the actual collusion ruling, the 61-pager, was also sealed ex post facto by confidentiality agreement. One must wonder whether you had curiosity about what was in that, given that you yourself, and we only know this because we released the document, were a character who actually did get his cell phone searched, did in fact have to testify, was in fact a key player, pun only semi-intended, in the proceedings. And you're telling me that given all of that, you didn't know anything, by the way, about this decision that subsequently, and this is just so much is happening, so forgive me as I try to diagram these sentences I'm saying out loud in my head as I say them, especially given that the decision to seal it by NDA was then recently, last week, said to be, oh, wait a minute, hold on, we're going to appeal this thing actually. Like, yeah. What are we doing? What are we even doing?
It really is amazing. And you make a great point. JC Tretter was much more invested in this collusion grievance than Lloyd Howell was. And one of the theories for keeping it quiet is it makes D. Smith look good, and it undermines Lloyd Howell's position that we have strength through peace, and let's get along, and let's be friends, and let's work with these folks. Let's not litigate all the time. All D wanted to do was sue, sue, sue. Oh, he kind of won that one. Well, let's just bury that one and label it confidential. So, yeah, if I'm JC and I'm telling the truth, and it's my opinion that he's not.
Oh, and yes, by the way, obviously we are presenting facts and now drawing interpretations, but let's take him at his word, as you're saying, please.
He should have stormed out when he found out that Lloyd Howell hid from him this ruling, that Lloyd Howell stuck it in a drawer and didn't even tell JC Tretter about it. But that's what happened if JC Tretter's telling the truth.
I found it so fascinating on the Dan Patrick show today when he then is asked by Dan about, like, you know, why didn't no one do anything with this, basically. And he then sort of launches into this whole thing of like, well, that was just a temporary hold, basically. It's now being appealed, all that stuff. And I'm like, can we please talk about whether the decision to suppress this via NDA was a good idea or not? Do you, JC Tretter, think that was a good idea? It seems like ex post facto, again, in this interview, you're saying, well, actually, that wasn't a big deal. And I can only imagine, Mike, given your logical sort of analysis here, which I agree with, that if he said nothing, he agreed with the move, right? Both at the time, but we didn't have to grant that. After we published it, he stayed and supported and said nothing, right? As this insane plan, the second phase of the insane plan began to reveal itself. We're going to appeal it now, by the way. We're going to actually fight for the players because there's some bad stuff in here. Like, okay, so you were, if not aware of it at its origin, you were co-signing as chief strategy officer the very strategy that to me is disqualifying given the contents of the report of the ruling, which I cannot stress this enough. Nobody would know if we didn't publish it. So if not for us, literally nothing with this appeal would have happened. And so how can you be all of these things at once is my fundamental question, I guess.
One of the things that fascinated me is he was reciting the talking points today. Well, we did lose. We did lose the grievance. But then when he started to talk about where it stands, he slipped into true believer mode, which I appreciate. He believes that they colluded. He believes that the appeal could be successful. He understands that the three-party panel that will hear the appeal could disagree with the arbitrator. And if two of the three do, this thing gets very interesting. Maybe gets set back for a hearing on damages. And there are many dollars at stake if that happens. But there's never been a clear articulation offered by anyone as to what the strategic purpose of hiding this was. And this gets back to his title, Chief Strategy Officer. If we're going to hide this, what's our strategy for hiding it? Because when we hide it, one thing we do is we prevent the upcoming class of free agents that might be trying to get fully guaranteed contracts from having this at their disposal to just say, hey, we're watching you, Dino. Don't give me that crap about you can't guarantee 3 years. Is this more of that collusion? Do we have to search your phone again, Dino? I mean, it can't hurt your effort to get your best possible deal for your clients and to get fully guaranteed contracts. And this is where it comes back to the potential for litigation.
Yes.
Because there's a duty of fair representation lawsuit lurking out there on behalf of players for different reasons. And one very rich plot of land would be this idea that the guys who signed contracts after that decision was made and who were prevented from knowing about it had their leverage and their negotiating power diminished by the union inexplicably hiding it.
Bingo. Like, to me, right? And let's take it out of turn the camera away from us, if you will, and think about it if you're a player who was in fact up for negotiation in that summer, 2021, and they were not told, or I mean, frankly, any of the previous summers in between this and the release of the ruling, they were not told what was in it. And so a question for JC Tretter might be, do you feel like you fulfilled your fiduciary duty as an executive at the union, as one of the, by the way, highest paid executives at the union, hired by Lloyd Howell to a job that had never existed before? Do you believe, in fact, that you did your job in representing the best interests of those players whose window to capitalize on that information came and went? Because guess what? You can't jump in the time machine and undo that stuff. And so their remedy, those players' remedy, which we have heard about now in the background for weeks, is litigation, should they choose to pursue it. And the case is for lawyers to assess, I suppose. But it's when I talk about the Craig Jones email, my other favorite artifact, Mike, which you reported, which you got, right? One of the great series of sentences that JC to Jonathan Jones on the CBS report dismisses as, I guess, I need a thesaurus. It's like, yeah, you should get one, because what he's saying is that you betrayed this once proud entity. And when Craig Jones, the head security officer, who's been there forever, who is like, I would say this in terms of my understanding of him, he is long tenured and long respected. One of these true believers who remembers the days of this being Gene Upshaw's union. And let's not joke about that. That's what it aspired to be, right? Respectable, a worthy counterbalance to the most important sport in American life. What that guy's saying is, we're not idiots. We see how you arrived here. We see how you engineered things. We see and have heard what it cost us. And that is both a question of reputation, certainly, which JC has had the most to say about his reputation in all of these now post-resignation sort of like exit interviews. But it's also in terms of actual money to players, his constituents. How do they feel? That's also to come.
That was one of the things he said with Dan Patrick today, that he was asked not to respond to the untruths that were being said about him. Well, why? Why? If you're being lied about, who's asking you to keep your mouth shut? And if you had been lied to about the hidden collusion ruling, wouldn't you at some point say, I'm not playing this game anymore? People are blaming me for something I didn't do. They're pointing at me for something that was taken from me. I'm the chief strategy officer who was excluded from the strategy of this thing, and I'm taking the heat for it. And you want me to keep my mouth shut about it? Are you kidding me? So again, it feels like this is a reclamation project by JC Tretter. I don't know what his next job is. I don't know. Is he looking for something in media? Is he looking to go work for the league? I don't know. But it feels like at a minimum, he's just trying to clean up whatever might be out there that for whatever reason he didn't try to clean up as it was happening. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.